Hello, my name is Andreas, but who cares? To continue with my theme of films that raise controversy, Gangster Squad was a film that was completely taken off the radar. Not because of the film itself necessarily, although it had a little bit to do with that, but because it sadly could be linked to a national tragedy. When The Dark Knight Rises came out and there was that huge shooting in the theater, Gangster Squad had a trailer where criminals in said trailer were killing people in a movie theater. So you can... Unfortunately, this meant that the film had to be taken back and held on the shelf for a while, so instead of being released when most good films are released within the last quarter of the year, again, because, like I said last week, that's when the producers think the Oscar voters will be the most awake when it comes to films. Instead, it got released in January of this year, which is one of the 3 worst months for movies. In short, the first 3 months of the year are the worst for films because it's either the movies that weren't good enough to be noticed by the Oscar voters or by festivals, so they end up being films that can be kind of pretentious, or just overall huge gigantic failures that won't get back any of its budget, or they're just films that are made just for the sake of earning money. And we're going to look at one of those next week. I'll tell you which at the end of this video. But Gangster Squad, which of these films does it fall under? Well, there's a similar film that came out last year called Lawless. Lawless was so promising. I mean, it had such a great cast, it had Nick Cave writing it, it had a fantastic director. And truth be told, Lawless was just okay. I think it's a bit underrated, but that's not saying that it's a great movie overall. I was disappointed, yes, but was it a terrible movie? No. Gangster Squad was. This is a similar movie where it had a promising director, Ruben Fleischer, the guy who directed Zombieland, for God's sakes. Zombieland was a hilarious movie. It was so well done and so well made. And then he made 30 minutes or less, which was very underwhelming. But Gangster Squad looked like his return to form. Ah yes, this is the guy who directed Zombieland. This is his flashy style coming back. This is where it's all going to be at. But instead of the movie that I thought I would be getting with this, I got exactly what I saw I would be getting with this, but not what I felt. The movie is exactly as flashy and as visually aesthetic as the trailer would lead you to believe. So at least it's accurate in that sense. And the trailer promises a huge cast, and a very talented cast, and that's exactly what you get. Sean Penn as Mickey Cohen is great. Ryan Gosling, Josh Brolin, Robert Patrick, Emma Stone. So many people in this movie are so talented. What could go wrong? Well, apparently Ruben Fleischer, he can direct the way things look, the way people look, the way people act. Can he save a subpar story? No. After 2 flops because of terrible stories, we have learned that Ruben Fleischer cannot do that. I don't even know why I'm doing that. His last name is probably easy. It's probably Fleischer, like I said. There are 2 reasons why this story flops. Everything's stylized, and I love stylized. I love Drive. Drive was my favorite movie of 2011. I love stylized when it's done right. Drive spoke volumes, especially when the driver himself didn't speak a lot. Now with this movie, which coincidentally also has Ryan Gosling, it's just flashy, but the story's not really there. The second part that really bothered me. Now, the story that is there is so clearly the Untouchables! Oh my god, the similarities are strikingly bad. I mean, okay, In Gangster Squad, you have Sean Penn as Mickey Cohen. In Untouchables, you have Robert De Niro as Al Capone. What are they both? They're both untouchable tour de forces which need to be stopped. So there has to be a team compiled. In Gangster Squad, it's Josh Brolin. In this Untouchables, it's Kevin Costner. And that team gets compiled, and they're known as the Gangster Squad, the name of the movie. And the Untouchables are known as the Untouchables, the name of the movie.
The Untouchables.
And how did they get these names? By newspaper headlines. Oh my god, the similarities are too striking. Oh, did I forget to say that the main character in Gangster Squad has a pregnant wife? Well, in the Untouchables, the main character has a mom who has a kid she's taking care of at home. Oh my god. Oh yeah, and the fact that, you know, Mickey Cohen gets pretty much the exact same fate as Al Capone. So, in one of my segments where I talk about filmmaking and such, I will get into the difference between homage and just plain ripping off. But I want to get into it a tiny little bit here. When it comes to the difference, usually for me, an homage is short and sweet. It's a little punch. It's a little bit of a, this is our story, but here's this that I'm going to toss in. Like the beginning of Inglourious Basterds looking like the beginning of The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Or the scene in Brazil where the caretaker gets shot in the eye and her glasses crack. Pretty much like the mom in Battleship Potemkin. Now those are homages because they're short, they're showing a nod to the greats before them. They happen and then they're finished. You feel good about them. You feel, oh, that was from Battleship Potemkin, that was nice. When you rip something off and there are just too many similarities, like between Gangster Squad and the Untouchables, especially when one is vastly inferior, Gangster Squad is almost identical in so many ways to the Untouchables. The Untouchables had heart, the Untouchables had spirit, the Untouchables was moving, and it wasn't just violent for the sake of being violent. Gangster Squad was. Now, to answer my earlier question, what film does this fall under? To be honest, I'm surprised it was going to be released in September anyways. Take away the huge dramatic theater scene, which was actually cut because of the whole The Dark Knight Rises situation, and I honestly feel like it wouldn't have added anything anyways. There wasn't any huge point. Like in Spider-Man, when the Twin Towers had to be taken out of the movie because of obviously 9/11, that was going to be his big reveal apparently, where you finally see his costume. That's why in the first movie you kind of rushes into that. I don't know if that's 100% true, but it's a story I've heard a number of times. And you know what? I could believe that. With the theater scene in Gangster Squad, if you told me that this was going to make it 10 times better, I wouldn't have believed it. No. Because the story is just weak. The story, when it is okay, it relies too much on the formula that the Untouchables had. I mean, by the numbers. Now again, yes, the visuals are really nice. It's very stylistic, which I love. And the acting is great. But that doesn't save it from the story, of course. I mean, a story like Prometheus, where it had many questions asked, I still liked because it was as confusing as the environment. You felt lost in the environment. Here, in Gangster Squad, it's just flat, and it shouldn't be flat. And when it isn't flat, again, it's stealing from another movie. So Gangster Squad was not just a disappointment, it was a huge slap in the face, because this should have been good. Well, because I give absolutely nothing to its story, because I got nothing out of it except for Brian De Palma did it better. I've got to give credit to the visuals. The action's alright, actually, I've got to give it that. A lot of people say it's needlessly violent. I don't know. I still found that to be better than the serious story. So with that in mind, I'm going to end up giving this a 2.8 because honestly, this movie annoyed me more than it should have. Like, it wasn't boring. It wasn't just off the map. It was actually pretty horrendously bad story-wise. What did you guys think? Let me know. And keep the suggestions coming, because next week I'm actually going to do a suggestion that somebody obviously suggested. Next week we're going to have a double feature. A haunted house and Mama. Oh, God. Thanks to you who suggested this. You know very well who you are. You suck. So this is Andreas with Who Cares, and thank you for caring. And subscribe if you haven't. Alright, take care.